So today I want to show you guys how to replace the foam cushions in a vintage camper. Now the thing about vintage campers is generally those cushions start to smell vintage as well. And it's almost impossible to wash the foam because if you wash the foam, it almost never dries out. It would take you forever to get that dry. And so the best bet is to just replace the foam itself. And odds are, if it's older foam, it's going to be broken down and degraded anyway. So here are the tools we're going to use today. We've got some new foam. You can buy this online. It's high density foam. This is 3-inch foam. Or you can buy it at Home Depot. I've purchased it at Kroger stores. You just need to shop around. Camper sleeping pads for camping are available at like any sporting goods store. That's what this was. They're also available at Home Depot. And you can buy larger pieces of foam online at, say, Amazon. Just look around for like mattress toppers. And I prefer the high density foam because it's a lot more comfortable than, say, memory foam, in my opinion. And the next tool is a long, sharp knife. Now, if you don't have a sharp knife, sharpen one. We've seam ripper, and these are available at any sewing store or probably online as well. Got a good old-fashioned Sharpie. We've got a square, a straight edge. Now you don't need a fancy straight edge like this. Any super straight board would work, or anything else that's just straight. That's all you need. We've got a roll of electrical tape, and since I don't have a helper today, I'm going to use this clamp. Now a bar clamp would work as well. I prefer a helper myself, but I just don't have one today. So let's get this started. So we've already done part of the work here. The person decided that they wanted to keep the original fabric, the original upholstery, and so what was done was the seam ripper was used to take the stitches out. You can see the stitches here, and the seam ripper just goes underneath the loop, and then you push it through and it cuts it. And then Velcro was sewn on so that once the new cushion was made, you could just Velcro it up, and that way the upholstery could be washed at any time, and all you had to do was pop the foam out, because once you get foam wet, it's almost impossible to get it dry again, and that's the main reason for that. And another part of this, when you're replacing the foam, it's also a good idea to wrap the foam in plastic or like a cheap mattress protector first. That way, in case your dog jumps up on it and he's all muddy, or the kids spill some juice on it, you can easily just take the upholstery off, wash it, and you never have to worry about that foam getting wet. That's a huge plus of that. And I've seen mattress protectors at the dollar store. I mean, it's cheap insurance. So the first mistake a lot of people make is they just throw away the old cushions. And that kind of leaves you trying to find out what the dimensions should be. So the first step should be getting that seam ripper, popping the seams open, and then measuring the foam that's inside. It's a lot easier to measure a piece of foam than it is to try to decipher what dimensions should have been there. So first up, measure your foam. And then, like we did with this, you could easily get mass amounts of Velcro online for fairly cheap. Sewing machines are also fairly cheap. You can buy those at Goodwill, or we have a couple brand new ones, but it doesn't really matter where you get it. You can even borrow your friends or your grandma's or whatever. And you could put the Velcro on, or you could do zippers as well. It's up to you. Now this is a scrap piece of foam. We're just using it for demonstration purposes. And the first step, if you'll notice, there's a wall right here, and this is done on purpose. This is a nice straight wall. Foam has a lot of stretch to it, and especially large pieces of foam, it's hard to get the foam perfectly straight on both sides. So we're going to use this wall to help us kind of cheat. And remember, foam is flexible in all directions. So even though that side might be perfectly straight, this side may not be. So you're going to use your straight edge and make sure that this side is straight. Now, if it's not, you need to push in and make sure that the measurements on each corner are the same on your straight edge. So like this, say if it was 10 inches over here and 9 3/4 over here, we'd want to push this edge in until it was 9 3/4. And if you don't do that, what can happen is, actually it's happened on this piece, instead of having a nice straight line, you'll end up with a line that's kind of swayed because the foam was actually stretched out. And it's better that you find out this way than the hard way, because it's a lot easier to cut foam than it is to add pieces to it. So once you've got this straight, and the thickness the same all the way, you can mark it out. And this is where the electrical tape and the square come in. On this one I've got a short piece of foam, so I'm going to tape up this long end. And this is just so I don't mar up the wall. So I'm going to take this tape, I'm just going to cover this edge. That way I don't rip up the paint as easily. Just going to do that. Fold it over. It's not a lot of buffer there, but it's just enough to where it might save the paint on the wall. Some walls you probably wouldn't have to do this on, but if you can see, this one's textured and I don't really feel like repairing that. So there's a piece of tape. So we'll go ahead and lay that down there. This is where the Sharpie comes in. You take whatever measurement you came up with from your cushion and say it was 7 inches. So I would put the Sharpie right on the 7-inch mark, and I would slowly push it along the wall. Make sure it stays against the wall, and you're going to end up with a nice straight line. I should have done that on the end. That's alright. I'm trying to do this quickly because I know not everybody has a lot of time to watch videos, so I just want to get it over with so you guys can see how it's done. So we're going to just do a little cut here. I'm not going to go the full length of the cushion. Alright, so now you would flip that cushion over. We'll do the same thing. Now, if we were doing this for real, you'd want to make sure that this was straight again, so that it's not stretched out in the middle so you don't get a bowed line. But this is just for demonstration, so we're going to do the same thing. A lot of times it helps to have somebody help you to keep the square against the wall or to keep the foam from moving. There you have it. We have lines directly opposite from each other on the foam. And this is where you're going to need a cutting utensil. Now you notice I didn't go all the way or anything like that because I'm just kind of going through this for demonstration purposes. Since I don't have a helper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this to the table. I'm going to do it furthest away from where the line's at so I don't deform it very much. I'd much prefer a helper, but this is what we've got today. Now the only reason for this is when you start to cut, it's a lot easier to cut if something is pulling gently to pull the two sides apart once you've got a cut made. And so that's what the clamp is for, is to hold this so that I can gently pull this way. Now I'm going to take the knife and I'm going to line it up with both lines, top and bottom. That way I get a nice straight cut and I don't end up with a jagged edge that's longer on one side and shorter on the other, because that's going to show in the final product if you do it right. So I'm going to line up both lines. And I'm going to gently pull on this once I get the cut started. You just have to keep your eye on both those lines to make sure that your knife is staying where it should. Since this is going to be inside of a piece of upholstery, nobody's really going to see your cut, but you want to do as good a job as you can. Just take your time, be patient, and stay on those lines. Alright, as you can see here, it's not a perfect cut, it's a little bit jagged, but again, it's going to be inside that upholstery. And so this will be just fine, nobody's going to see it, and you're not going to have some crazy unsquare cuts or some big bows or anything like that, because we took the time to make sure it was straight and square, and that's the purpose of this. So I hope this helps you guys out. I know it's kind of difficult the first time you cut foam. You probably don't know what you're doing, and you'll end up with some crazy results. And now this helps simplify it a lot. You get a nice straight square cut, and it's really cheap. You saw the tools I used. I mean, I was using a knife. I think the most expensive tool there was the square. But I'm sure a lot of people have it, and if you don't have it, I'm sure you probably know somebody you can borrow it from. So there you go, guys. I hope this helps you guys out, and happy camping.